Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about cloud ransomware.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a whole bunch of reports and analyses on cybersecurity trends,
Huh?
like the evolution of ransomware, how it's all, changing.
Right.
And then we've got some stuff specifically on vulnerabilities
Yeah.
that are in the cloud that make it a target for this kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
We've even got some visuals,
Nice.
charts and diagrams that we'll be kind of referencing along the way.
Cool.
So we're really going to be trying to understand this new threat and how it's shaping, cybersecurity today.
Yeah, what's really striking to me is just the scale of this shift.
Yeah.
We're seeing cybercriminals change how they operate.
Right.
And I think it has huge implications for literally every business out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one chart that we have here
Yeah.
really jumped out at me.
Okay.
It shows that 25% of companies right now
Mm-hmm.
are running more than 40% of their computing in the cloud.
Wow.
So that's already a lot.
Yeah.
And that number's projected to almost double in the next 3 years.
Really?
So to 48%.
Wow.
So we're talking almost half of all companies
Yeah.
will have a huge portion of their operations hosted in the cloud.
And that's exactly why this is such a huge issue.
Yeah.
I mean, as businesses are relying more and more on cloud services,
Right.
the cyber criminals are right behind them,
Yeah.
following that data.
Follow the money.
Right? Exactly. They go where the valuable stuff is.
Yeah. So let's get into it. What is cloud ransomware?
Okay.
For those maybe who haven't heard this term before or aren't super familiar with it.
Yeah. So basically it's like ransomware, but for the cloud.
Okay.
Instead of targeting individual computers or networks,
Right.
this stuff focuses on cloud services, and it really takes advantage of how the cloud works.
Okay.
It's scalable, it's globally accessible.
Right.
So they can use that to launch these attacks that are just way more sophisticated and reach way further than before.
So it's not just locking you out of your personal computer. It's locking you out of
Well,
your entire business.
yeah, your whole infrastructure
Right.
that you have hosted in the cloud.
Wow.
It could be your entire cloud ecosystem.
Oh, wow.
Imagine a company's CRM system,
Okay.
Their customer relationship management.
Right.
If that's in the cloud and it gets hit with ransomware, suddenly no customer data,
Right.
no processing orders, their entire sales pipeline just frozen.
Wow.
That's the kind of impact we're talking about here.
That sounds incredibly disruptive.
Yeah.
How does a cloud ransomware attack even happen?
Yeah.
What does that actually look like?
So it usually follows a specific life cycle that
Oh,
we
yeah.
can break down into stages.
Okay.
So it often starts with initial access.
Okay.
This is how attackers even get into your cloud environment in the first place. So,
Yeah.
think phishing attacks where employees are tricked into giving up their login information.
Okay.
Or maybe they're exploiting some vulnerability
Right.
in your software or your configuration.
So they're not hacking in.
Right, not necessarily.
It could be as simple as a really convincing email.
Exactly.
Okay.
So then we've got infection.
Okay.
This is where the ransomware spreads
Okay.
through your cloud environment.
Uh-huh.
Then we have privilege escalation.
Okay.
So the attackers will try to get higher level access within your systems
Uh-huh.
to give them more control.
So getting admin privileges.
Right.
Okay.
And then lateral movement.
Okay.
This is where they move through your cloud environment trying to access as many systems as they can.
Right.
And at the same time, they're probably doing data exfiltration,
Oh, wow.
which is basically just stealing your valuable data
Okay.
before they encrypt it.
So they're taking it and then holding it hostage.
Right. It's not just locking you out.
Right.
It's taking your most valuable stuff. Right.
And demanding a ransom to get it back.
That's wild. Okay, so they've taken the data.
Right.
Then what?
Then they encrypt it.
Okay.
That's where your data is scrambled, so you can't access it without the key.
Right.
And then they hit you with the ransom demand.
Pay up or lose your business.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that the paying doesn't even guarantee you'll get everything back.
Right.
Or that your data hasn't been messed with in some way.
Yeah. It's risky either way.
It is.
Okay, so what makes this cloud ransomware so different
Okay.
from the old school ransomware that we used to see?
Well, there are a few key things.
Okay.
One is what we call architectural exploitation.
Okay.
So basically the cloud has its own vulnerabilities,
Uh-huh.
and attackers are getting really good
Yeah.
at finding those and exploiting them.
So misconfigured systems,
Yeah.
permission issues, unsecured APIs, things like that.
Exactly. They're finding those little cracks in the walls.
Yeah. And then another big one is multi-system impact.
Okay.
So cloud environments are often super interconnected.
Right.
So an attack can spread really quickly
Yeah.
and affect like lots of systems all at once.
Wow.
Like, remember that CRM example?
Yeah.
One attack could like take out your sales, marketing, customer support
Oh, wow.
all at the same time.
So it's not just one file or one computer. It's like your whole business.
Exactly. It's everything.
Wow. Okay, so then the encryption itself,
Yeah.
is that different?
Oh, yeah. So cloud ransomware attackers are using way more sophisticated encryption,
Right.
often like combining multiple algorithms.
Right.
So it's almost impossible to decrypt without the key.
It's like they've leveled up.
Yeah. They've gone from a simple padlock to like a high-tech vault.
Right. And then there's this thing called centralized key management.
Right. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
So the attackers control the keys
Uh-huh.
through like their command and control servers.
Okay.
So they have all the power.
They hold all the cards.
You're at their mercy.
Wow. So we've gone from worrying about like a virus on our computer
Right.
to like losing our entire business.
Yeah, it's a different world now.
How did we even get here?
Right.
Like, how did ransomware evolve from those early days
Right.
to this like cloud-focused threat?
It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Think back to like the early crypto worms,
Right, yeah.
like 20 years ago or something.
Yeah, those were the days where you might get locked out of your computer,
Right.
but it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, it wasn't seen as like a major threat,
Right.
but it was kind of a warning sign
Yeah.
of what was to come.
Right.
And then we had those massive widespread campaigns like WannaCry.
Yeah.
That really changed the game.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
yeah.
That was a big deal.
It was a wake-up call for a lot of people.
For sure.
And then from there, we saw this like natural progression towards cloud-based ransomware.
Right, because as businesses moved their stuff to the cloud, the attackers followed.
Yeah, they saw this opportunity.
Right, a much bigger playing field.
Exactly. And with the evolution of encryption,
Right.
they now have the tools
Yeah.
to make decryption without them pretty much impossible.
Right.
So it's this combination of factors
Uh-huh.
that's made cloud ransomware like one of the biggest threats businesses face today.
Yeah, we're not dealing with like, teenagers in their basement anymore.
Right. This is an organized crime.
Right, these are professionals.
Exactly. They're sophisticated. They're motivated.
Yeah, so we've gone from simple encryption to something way more complex
Uh-huh.
and potentially like catastrophic.
Yeah, the stakes are a lot higher now.
Right. How did that happen though?
Well, so traditional ransomware relied on these like fairly simple encryption algorithms.
Right.
They were good for locking people out,
Uh-huh.
but they could often be cracked by
Oh.
security researchers. So
Right.
like breaking a simple lock.
Okay.
But cloud ransomware attackers, they've stepped it up.
Uh-huh.
They're using stuff like AES,
Okay.
elliptic curve cryptography,
Okay.
asymmetric cryptography.
What do those even mean?
So AES
Okay.
stands for Advanced Encryption Standard.
Okay.
It's like a really strong single lock.
Okay.
Then you've got elliptic curve cryptography.
Uh-huh.
This is like a public key cryptography,
Okay.
but it's really efficient and secure even with short keys.
Okay.
So that's like adding a deadbolt to your already secure door.
Gotcha.
And then asymmetric cryptography,
Huh.
also called public key cryptography,
Okay.
uses two keys,
Okay.
one to lock, one to unlock,
Gotcha.
and the attackers keep the unlock key.
Right, so you can't get in without them.
Exactly.
So they're layering all these different types of encryption.
Yeah, they're making it as hard as possible to break in.
Right, and that brings us back to key management.
Right.
They're not just like creating complex keys,
Uh,
they're controlling them too.
oh, yeah, they're using sophisticated random number generators
Okay.
to create keys that are like impossible to guess.
Right.
And since they control these keys through their servers,
Right.
they have all the power.
You're at their mercy.
Exactly.
So it's not just about breaking the encryption.
Yeah.
It's about getting the key.
Right.
Which they've locked away.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so this is bad.
It's definitely a serious threat.
Yeah, so it's not just about the data itself anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the entire infrastructure that supports it.
Right. It's everything.
What does this mean for businesses?
Well, it means they need to be prepared
Right.
because the implications are huge.
Yeah, like what are we talking about here?
So think about your central CRM
Okay.
or your ERP system.
Uh-huh.
These systems manage everything.
Correct.
Customer relationships, finances, operations.
Right.
If those are hit with ransomware,
Yeah.
your business is done.
Your business is done.
It's like the heart of your business just stops.
Oh, wow.
And then there's endpoint device management. If that's compromised, they can push out malicious software
Check.
to every device on your network.
It's like they're in your nervous system,
Yeah?
controlling everything.
Yeah,
They're talking about like weeks, months of disruption.
It could be devastating.
And what about like source code,
Yeah.
repositories,
Mm-hmm.
build systems?
So those are essential for development. If those are compromised,
yeah,
you can't create or update anything.
you're completely paralyzed.
Yeah. It's like they sabotaged your factory.
Wow.
So the implications go way beyond just data.
Yeah.
This is your whole business ecosystem.
Right.
Potentially brought to a standstill.
And the consequences,
They can be massive.
yeah, like data loss,
Uh-huh.
recovery costs,
Yeah.
fines,
Yeah.
reputational damage.
It's a nightmare scenario.
It is a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
So what can companies do?
Okay.
Like, how do we protect ourselves?
So the first thing
Yeah.
is you need an incident response plan,
Yeah.
specifically for the cloud. Okay, so not just a general cybersecurity plan.
No, this has to be tailored to the cloud environment.
Okay.
This plan should outline everything.
Right.
What are your recovery objectives?
Mhm.
What are the procedures for responding?
Right.
Who's responsible for what?
It's like a battle plan.
Exactly. You need to be prepared.
Right. So when this happens,
Yeah.
not if we need
Right.
to know what to do.
Exactly.
Okay, and I imagine like roles and
Oh,
responsibilities.
yeah, those are crucial.
Yeah.
You need to know who's communicating with stakeholders,
Uh-huh.
who's doing the technical recovery,
Right.
who's handling the legal stuff.
Right.
It's like a well-trained emergency response team.
Yeah, everyone knows their job.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just like any emergency response team,
Yeah.
they need to practice.
Oh, right.
So, tabletop exercises
Mm-hmm.
where you run through different scenarios,
Right.
maybe even simulated attacks,
Yeah.
where you actually test your response.
So it's not just a plan on paper, right? You have to actually practice
You have to
them.
make sure it works.
Exactly.
The more you practice, the better.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's say we have this plan.
Okay.
How do we even know when an attack is happening?
Right.
Like, how do you detect cloud ransomware?
Early detection is key.
Right.
The sooner you patch it,
Uh-huh.
the sooner you can contain it
Right.
and start minimizing the damage.
Okay, so continuous monitoring.
Yeah, that's essential.
Okay, but how does that work?
Sure. So one common approach
Mm-hmm.
is to use SIEM systems,
Good.
security information, and event management.
Okay.
So these systems collect logs and events
Uh-huh.
from all over your cloud environment,
Right.
servers, firewalls, applications,
Okay.
and then they analyze them in real time,
Oh.
looking for patterns or anything unusual.
So it's like a central nervous system.
Yeah, for your cloud security.
Right.
Always watching for trouble.
Okay, so like a spike in failed login attempts
Yes.
or like a ton of data leaving your network.
Yeah, exactly. That's a red flag that
Yeah.
needs to be investigated.
So it's like a detective
Yeah.
analyzing clues,
Right.
looking for a crime in progress.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and this is all automated.
Well, SIEM systems are just one part of it.
Okay.
You've also got intrusion detection systems, IDS,
Uh-huh.
intrusion prevention systems, IPS.
Okay.
These monitor your network traffic
Okay.
for suspicious patterns.
Okay.
They can identify known attack signatures
Okay.
or just anomalies that suggest an intrusion.
It's like a security checkpoint.
Right.
Checking everyone coming and going.
Exactly. And to make it even better,
Yeah.
a lot of these systems now are
Uh-huh.
using machine learning,
Okay.
artificial intelligence.
Well, it's getting smarter over time.
Exactly.
Wow.
They can analyze tons of data,
Yeah.
way more than a human could,
Right.
to spot those patterns and anomalies
Right.
that we might miss.
So it's like a whole army of digital detectives.
Yeah. Working around the clock.
Okay, but let's be real. Some attacks will get through,
Right.
even with the best defenses.
Yeah. No system is perfect.
So what happens then?
So then containment is key.
Okay.
You have to isolate those affected systems
Uh-huh.
as fast as you can. Stop it from spreading.
All right.
Stop it from encrypting more data.
Okay, so maybe disconnecting infected systems,
Yeah.
disabling user accounts,
Mhm.
shutting down services.
Exactly. You got to contain it.
Okay,
It's like a surgical strike.
right. Target the infection.
Right.
Stop it from spreading.
And while that's happening,
Yeah,
you also need to figure out what happened.
right.
How did they get in?
Yeah.
What systems are affected?
Right.
What data was compromised?
So you're fighting the fire,
Yeah.
but also investigating it.
Exactly. You got to learn from it
Right.
so you can prevent it next time.
Okay, so we've contained it.
Uh-huh.
We've investigated it.
Right.
Now what?
Now you start recovery,
Okay.
which usually means restoring from backups.
Okay, and this is where those offsite backups come in.
Right. Exactly. Having those clean backups
Ah.
stored somewhere separate ideally offline,
Right.
or in a cloud that wasn't affected,
Yeah.
that can save you.
So it was like an insurance policy.
Yeah, you hope you never need it.
Right.
But when you do,
Yeah.
you're glad you have it.
Okay, and recovery can be complex,
Oh, yeah.
especially if it's a big attack.
Right.
Multiple systems,
Yeah.
tons of data.
You might have to rebuild servers,
Wow.
reconfigure applications, recreate user accounts.
That's a lot of work.
It is, but that's why you need a plan.
Right. A recovery plan.
Exactly. And you need to test it
Right.
regularly.
So you know it works.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've backed up the data.
Uh-huh.
We've restored the systems.
Right.
Are we done?
Not quite.
Oh.
You still need to investigate,
Right.
figure out how it happened, what vulnerabilities were exploited so you can patch them, right, and prevent it from happening again. And you need to think about the legal stuff.
Right.
Regulatory implications. If personal data was compromised,
Yeah.
you might have to notify people
Right.
or regulatory authorities.
Yeah, it's not just an IT issue anymore.
No.
It's a legal issue,
Uh-huh.
a PR issue.
Exactly.
Wow.
It can really damage your reputation.
Right. So it's not just about getting your systems back online.
No.
It's about rebuilding trust,
Exactly.
showing that you take security seriously.
Yeah, you have to regain that confidence.
Right. Okay, so we've talked a lot about incident response,
Uh-huh.
but let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about those resilience building measures.
Okay.
Like, how do we make our cloud environments more resistant?
So one of the most important things
Yeah.
is a strong security foundation.
Okay.
So that means strong passwords,
Right.
multi-factor authentication, regular security audits.
So like covering the basics.
Exactly. And then you build on that with more advanced measures.
Right.
Like intrusion detection and prevention, data loss prevention.
Uh-huh. SIEM systems.
So like multiple layers of defense.
Right. You got to cover all the bases.
Okay.
And then vulnerability management.
Okay.
You got to be proactive,
Uh-huh.
scanning for weaknesses,
Right.
patching them quickly.
Just like regularly checking your car,
Yeah.
making sure everything's working.
Exactly.
Okay. And of course, backups. Can't
Right.
forget those.
Backups are essential.
Yeah, like we talked about.
Oh.
Your insurance policy.
Exactly.
Okay. And then what about the people?
Oh, damn.
Because even the best systems
Right.
can be bypassed.
Exactly. If someone clicks on a bad link
Right.
or falls for a phishing scam,
Yeah.
that can ruin everything.
So user education.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Right.
Everyone needs to understand the risks,
Uh-huh.
how to protect themselves
Right.
and the company.
It's a shared responsibility. It is. Cybersecurity is everyone's job.
So it's about building a culture of security
Exactly.
where everyone's aware
Uh-huh.
and vigilant.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
We've explored how ransomware has evolved,
Uh-huh.
what makes cloud ransomware unique,
Yeah.
and what it means for businesses.
Right.
And we've started to talk about
Yeah.
how to actually combat this threat.
Uh-huh.
But there's a lot more to uncover.
Yeah, definitely.
So join us for part 2,
Okay.
where we'll continue this deep dive into cloud ransomware.
Looking forward to it.
And we'll focus on incident response,
Yeah.
mitigation strategies, in a lot more detail.
Sounds good.
All right, so welcome back to the deep dive. We're picking up our conversation about cloud ransomware.
Yeah,
And as we've established, it's like a really serious threat.
it is.
And it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, the bad guys aren't standing still.
Right. But just knowing about it isn't enough, right?
No, definitely not.
We have to know what to do.
Right, we have to be prepared.
Right, if an attack happens.
Exactly, because no matter how strong your defenses are,
Yeah.
there's always a chance that something could slip through.
Right, no system is perfect.
Exactly, and with cloud ransomware,
Yeah.
a fast response
Right.
can really make all the difference.
Like between like a minor inconvenience
Right,
and like a total disaster.
exactly.
So let's talk about incident response. Like
Okay.
what makes a good plan?
So the first thing you need
Yeah.
is a really good understanding of your cloud environment.
Okay.
You got to know what's important,
Right.
what systems, what data,
Uh-huh.
where's it all located,
Right.
who has access to it.
So it's like having a map.
Yeah, like a detailed map of your digital territory.
Okay.
You got to know where your valuable stuff is
Right.
and how to protect it.
Makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
so once we have that map.
Then you can start to develop those procedures
Okay.
for responding to an attack.
So like specific steps.
Yeah, like what do you do first?
Yeah.
How do you identify the scope of the attack?
Uh-huh.
How do you isolate affected systems?
Right.
How do you restore data from backups?
Yeah. So we're not just reacting.
No, you have to have a plan,
Okay.
a predetermined plan of action.
Right. So we can act quickly.
Exactly, because speed is key.
Minimize the damage.
Right. The faster you respond,
Yeah.
the less damage they can do.
And I imagine roles and responsibilities are important too.
Oh, yeah. Super important.
Right.
Everyone needs to know what to do.
Yeah, like who's in charge of what?
Exactly. Who's communicating with everyone else? Who's handling the technical stuff?
Right.
Who's dealing with legal and compliance issues?
Right, so it's like a well-trained team.
Yeah, like a specialized emergency response team.
Everyone knows their role.
Right, and they know how to work together.
Okay.
And just like any emergency response team,
Yeah.
they need to practice.
Oh, right. Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. So, run through those tabletop exercises where you walk through different scenarios, maybe even simulate an attack.
Okay.
In a controlled environment.
So we're not just making a plan.
Right.
We're testing it.
Exactly. You got to make sure it works.
Right. Practice makes perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's say we have this awesome plan.
Okay.
How do we even know an attack is happening?
Right.
Like, how do we detect it in the first place?
Early detection is crucial.
Right.
The sooner you
Yeah.
the sooner you can act.
Okay, so continuous monitoring.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Okay, but how does that actually work?
Okay, so one of the most common ways
Yes.
is to use something called SIEM systems.
Okay.
That's security information and event management.
Okay.
And basically what they do is they collect logs and events from all sorts of different sources in your cloud environment.
Okay.
So servers, firewalls, applications.
Right.
And then they analyze all of that data
Okay.
in real time.
Wow.
Looking for patterns.
Okay.
Anything that looks unusual.
So it's like a central nervous system.
Yeah, for your security.
Right.
Constantly monitoring everything.
Okay, so like if there's a sudden spike in failed logins
Yeah.
or a bunch of data leaving the network.
Exactly. Those are red flags that need to be investigated.
So like a detective.
Uh-huh.
Analyzing clues.
Right.
Looking for that crime in progress.
Exactly.
And this is all happening automatically.
SIEM systems are a big part of it.
Okay.
But there are other tools too.
Right.
Like intrusion detection systems or intrusion prevention systems.
Okay.
These systems are watching your network traffic, looking for suspicious activity.
Okay.
So they might be looking for known attack signatures or just anything that seems out of place.
So like a security checkpoint.
Right. Checking everyone who's coming and going.
Right. Okay. And are these systems getting better?
Oh, yeah. They're getting a lot smarter.
How so?
Well, a lot of them now are using machine learning
Okay.
and artificial intelligence.
So it's like they're constantly learning.
They're getting better at spotting those threats.
Right, because they can analyze way more data than a human could.
Exactly. They can see things that we might miss.
It's like an army of digital detectives.
Yeah, working 24/7.
Okay. But even with all of this,
yeah,
some attacks are going to get through.
That's right. No system is perfect.
So what happens then?
So then it's all about containment.
Okay.
You have to move fast.
Uh-huh.
Isolate those affected systems.
Okay.
Stop the ransomware from spreading.
Right.
Stop it from encrypting more data.
So like disconnecting systems.
Yeah.
Disabling accounts. Shutting down services.
Exactly. You got to contain it.
It's like surgery.
Yeah, like a surgical strike.
Remove the infected part.
Right.
Stop it from spreading.
And while you're doing that, you also need to figure out what happened.
Right.
How did they get in? What did they touch?
What data did they get?
Right. You're fighting the fire, but you're also investigating.
Learn from it.
Exactly. So you can prevent it next time.
Okay, so we've contained it.
Yeah.
We've investigated it.
Right.
Now what?
Now it's time for recovery.
Okay.
Which usually means restoring from those backups.
Okay.
That we talked about earlier.
Right, those offsite backups.
Exactly.
For insurance policy.
Exactly. You got to have those clean backups stored somewhere safe.
Right.
Ideally offline.
Okay.
Or in a cloud that wasn't affected.
And recovery can be a huge pain.
Oh, yeah. Especially if it's a big attack.
Right.
Multiple systems, lots of data.
You might have to rebuild servers.
You might reconfigure applications, recreate user accounts.
That's a lot of work.
It is, but that's why you practice.
Right.
You test your recovery plan.
Yeah, so you know it works.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've restored the data, rebuilt the systems.
Right.
Are we done?
Not quite.
Okay.
You still need to dig deeper into how the attack happened, what vulnerabilities they exploited. Okay. So you can fix those weaknesses.
Right.
And prevent it from happening again.
And there's also the legal stuff.
Right. You can't forget about that.
Like regulations.
Exactly. Because if personal data was involved, you might have to notify people.
Right.
Or regulators.
Yeah, it's not just an IT problem anymore.
Well, it goes way beyond that.
It's legal. It's PR.
It can really hurt your reputation.
Right. So it's not just about getting back online.
Yeah.
It's about rebuilding trust.
Exactly.
Okay. So incident response is huge.
It is.
But what about preventing attacks in the first place?
Right. So let's talk about resilience.
Okay.
How do we make our cloud environments stronger?
Yeah.
So it all starts with a solid foundation.
Okay.
Strong passwords.
Right.
Multi-factor authentication. Regular security audits.
Like the basics?
Exactly. You got to cover the basics.
Right.
And then you build on that
Okay.
with more advanced security measures.
Like what?
Intrusion detection and prevention systems. Data loss prevention solutions. SIEM systems.
So like multiple layers of defense.
Right. You got to have layers.
Okay. And vulnerability management.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What's that?
So that's all about being proactive.
Okay.
Scanning your systems for weaknesses. Patching them quickly.
So like regular maintenance.
Exactly. Like taking your car to the mechanic.
Right. Okay. And backups.
Right. Always got to have backups.
I know we talked about the insurance policy.
Exactly.
Okay. But what about the human element?
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Because even with the best technology, people can mess things up.
Absolutely.
If they fall for a phishing scam, click on a bad link.
Right.
That can bypass all the security. So user education is key.
It is. Everyone needs to be aware of the risks.
Right.
How to protect themselves. How to protect the company.
It's everyone's responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity is a team effort.
So we need to create a culture of security.
Absolutely.
Where everyone is vigilant.
Yes.
And aware.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about responding to attacks.
Yeah.
And building resilience. But there's one more thing we need to talk about.
Okay.
And that's the fact that this threat is always changing.
It is. The landscape is constantly evolving.
Right. So we can't just sit back and relax.
No, you got to stay on top of it.
Right.
The attackers are always coming up with new tricks.
So it's an ongoing battle.
It is a constant arms race.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those emerging trends and how we can stay ahead of the curve.
Let's do it. So welcome back to the deep dive. And as we've seen so far, cloud ransomware, you know, it's a complex problem.
Yeah, it really is.
It's not going away anytime soon. And honestly, the landscape's always changing.
Right. Like the attackers always seem to be one step ahead.
Yeah, they're always looking for new ways and new ways to exploit, you know, systems.
New ways to make money, unfortunately.
Exactly. And one of the things that we're seeing more and more of is this concept of ransomware as a service.
Ransomware as a service?
Braces.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, it's not great.
What is that?
So basically, it's a business model.
Okay.
Where cybercriminals are developing ransomware tools and infrastructure, and they're renting it out.
They're renting it out?
Yeah, like leasing it
to other criminals.
For other criminals, exactly.
The people who maybe don't have the technical skills.
Right, they don't have the know-how to build the stuff themselves.
But they can just buy it.
Yeah, essentially.
Wow.
So it's like a dark web marketplace for ransomware.
So anyone can become a cybercriminal?
Pretty much, yeah.
If they have the money?
If they have the money, exactly.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's a pretty disturbing trend.
Yeah, it's like democratizing cybercrime.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so racist, that's one trend. What else are you seeing out there?
So another thing that's evolving is the extortion techniques themselves.
Oh.
It's not just about encrypting data anymore.
Right. It's not just about locking you out.
Exactly. They're getting more creative.
So what are they doing?
So for example, a lot of attackers are stealing data before they encrypt it.
So they take it.
Yeah, they take a copy.
And then they encrypt it.
Right, and then they threaten to leak it.
If you don't pay.
If you don't pay the ransom.
Well, it's not just about your business being disrupted. It's about your reputation.
Yeah, and potential legal issues.
Wow. So they're really up in the pressure.
They are, yeah.
And that it?
Well, sometimes they also launch DDoS attacks.
DDoS attacks.
Yeah, distributed denial of service.
Okay, I've heard of those.
So they're basically flooding your websites and servers with traffic.
To make them crash.
Yeah, basically to cause more disruption.
Wow, so they're really hitting you from all sides.
They are. They're trying to make it as painful as possible.
To force you to pay.
Exactly.
And then, on top of all of that, we have the cloud itself becoming more complex.
Right. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah, more interconnected.
Yeah.
More services, more APIs.
And that creates more opportunities for attackers.
It does, yeah.
So are they just attacking everything?
Well, not necessarily. They're getting more targeted.
Okay.
They're doing their research. They're looking for specific cloud services.
Okay.
Specific APIs
that they can exploit.
Exactly. They're looking for those weaknesses.
Just like they're doing reconnaissance.
Yeah, they're scoping out the target, finding the easiest way in.
Okay, so cloud security is a moving target.
It is. You got to stay on top of it.
So how do we do that?
Well, first of all, you got to stay informed. Okay. Read the news.
Yeah.
Go to conferences.
Okay.
Talk to experts.
Right. Find people you trust.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then what?
And then you got to actually do something with that information.
Right.
Put those defenses in place.
Okay, so like stuff we talked about.
Yeah. Strong security foundations. Advanced security measures.
Right.
SIEM systems.
Okay.
Threat intelligence.
It's all about layers.
It is, yeah. Multiple layers of defense.
But it's not just about the technology.
No, it's about the people, too. You got to educate your employees.
Yeah.
Make sure they understand the risks. Train them on how to spot phishing scams.
Okay.
How to handle sensitive information.
So it's about creating a culture of security.
Exactly.
Where everyone is part of the solution.
Yeah, everyone's a defender.
Okay. And, of course, we can't forget about incident response.
Right. You got to be prepared for the worst.
Even if we do everything right.
Yeah, because sometimes things happen.
So those plans that we talked about, we got to make sure they're up to date.
Absolutely.
We got to test them regularly.
Right.
Make sure they actually work.
It's like a fire drill.
Right.
Yeah.
You practice so you're ready when the alarm goes off.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
I think so.
We've really gone deep.
We have, yeah.
Into the world of cloud ransomware.
It's a complex issue.
It is. But I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so.
And some tools to protect themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
The main thing is you got to stay vigilant.
You do.
You got to stay informed.
Absolutely.
And you got to be prepared to adapt.
Because this threat is not going away.
Right. It's constantly evolving.
Exactly.
So keep learning, keep adapting, and keep fighting back.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been The Deep Dive.
Your shortcut to being well informed.
We'll see you next time.